It's your 1-year warning. Don't ruin your retirement months before it starts. I've got 4 costly mistakes that people make in their last year of working right before they retire, and I want you to avoid every single one of them. That's more coming up. You ever watch those celebrated too early videos out on YouTube? I have. I've seen way too many of them. I don't know if it's entertaining or if it's torture. The ones that are just hardest to watch are, the big football play where they make the pick six interception. They run all the way down the field and they drop the ball right before crossing the goal line. Or maybe the Hail Mary pass and they drop it early. I can't stand it. And yet my eyes are drawn to it every single time. Maybe the worst one I've ever seen is the marathon runner who starts celebrating just a few steps before the finish line and breaks his ankle. Have you seen that one? I'm squeamish, so that one really, really hurts. Or those ones where they're celebrating and then someone just flies right past them at the last second? I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want that to happen to you in retirement, and I don't want it to happen in your finances. I think the most clear analogy here is, okay, well, does that mean I'm just going to go out and blow all my money in the last year before I retire? No, I'm not going to do that. No. That's not a real risk. That's not actually the thing that derails people. In reality, there are some common, maybe deceptive, maybe well-intentioned mistakes that end up being huge problems that derail your retirement right in that last year, right before you pull the trigger. So what are the 4 costly mistakes that we see a lot of people make in their final year of their career, right before they retire, so that you can avoid them? I've got that right now. The first one we're going to call the lame duck investment error. That's right, I've talked about this quite a bit because it is very, very common. And this is where, in that last year, right before you retire, you take way too much risk or way too little risk with your investments. Way too much risk, I get it. Because especially right now, you look at your statements and you say, oh my goodness, okay, I finally have saved up more money than I've ever had before. $1.50 million. And the stock market did almost 20% return last year. Did 20% the year before that. Did 20% the year before that. And you start thinking, you know what? If I can just get another 20% on my dollars this year, I can be pushing close to $2 million. You know what that kind of number can do to your decision making? And then all of a sudden, the stock market has, and this is inevitable, we just never know when, a hiccup, a bear market, and you've risked more than what you really needed to. You've fallen right into the trap of sequence of return risk, which is one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a brand new retiree, because that early loss right at the start of retirement, combined with you withdrawing from the account at the same time, can do permanent damage that a recovery years later just can't fix. Or the opposite happens with this lame duck investment error, and that's where you say, uh-oh, I'm about to use these dollars. I can't take any risk. I need to go risk off with all of it. And you set yourself on a glide path where the risk and the potential return for those dollars over what could be a decades-long retirement isn't enough for you to keep up with the lifestyle you're accustomed to once you account for inflation. Both of these are mistakes. Both of them. Going too aggressive right before you need the money and going too conservative for money you won't touch for 20 or 30 years are both forms of the exact same error. Instead, make sure that you stay disciplined with your investment approach in that last year before retirement and begin shifting towards what we call a personal pension plan. As you get near retirement and near needing to actually live on these dollars, you want to stratify your entire portfolio, not just your 401k, not just your IRA. That's the thing. A lot of times people think, well, my 401k is invested one way. The rest of my dollars are invested a different way. No. Look at the entire portfolio as one picture. Calculate how much you think you're going to need in the next 2 to 3 years. And yeah, that's going to include the start of retirement. Make sure those dollars are low risk so that if the stock market has a hiccup or any kind of issue, you don't have to worry about it in the short term because you're not going to be forced to sell anything at a loss. The dollars just beyond that you'll need in years 5 through 7, those should be in medium risk. We like using hedging strategies for those dollars, so you've got some upside potential, but your downside is protected. And then all the other dollars, the ones you've mathematically proven you're not going to touch for at least a decade or more, those are the dollars where, yeah, you shouldn't be speculative, but you should absolutely be taking some investment risk with them, so they can continue growing for your long-term needs. You've got to start building the structure in the year or two before retirement, so that you avoid this lame duck investment error of being too aggressive or too conservative right when it matters most. The second mistake that people make in their final year of their career is not lining up an optimal retirement income strategy. That includes not optimizing for Social Security. And it connects directly back to that lame duck investment error I just mentioned, where you calculate how much you're going to be withdrawing from your portfolio over the next 2 to 3 years. And that's the amount you keep in short term or in cash. Well, mistake number 2 is that you don't actually know that number. And you haven't stratified your retirement income sources to help feed it properly so that you have the right retirement income coming in at the right time. So often this is connected to Social Security. Yeah, you're not promised tomorrow. You've been paying into the Social Security system since your very first paycheck, and Social Security itself isn't promised to look the same tomorrow either. And therefore, as soon as you retire, a lot of people just turn their Social Security on. For many people, that actually is the right time to do it. But you just need a pause. Not a pause between working and starting Social Security. A pause before making that decision, just to confirm it's the right one, and that it actually fits in with the rest of your retirement income plan. Possibly it makes sense for you to delay your Social Security just until January of next year, to open up some tax planning strategies around bracket management. Or maybe it makes sense to delay until a certain age for you specifically. Or maybe delay until a certain age for your spouse, depending on who has the higher benefit and what your joint life expectancy planning looks like. You're going to want to, before you make an emotional decision, say, all right, what's my overarching retirement income strategy that makes sense for my taxes, for my cash flow, for my retirement dollars, for my investment strategy? What actually makes sense here? And then how does Social Security optimize and fit into that bigger picture? Work with your certified financial planner on that to avoid this retirement income mistake, because once you turn that switch on, in most cases, you can't easily turn it back off. The third mistake people make in their last year of their career is the healthcare cliff. That's right, assuming that their health insurance through their employer lasts longer than it actually does, and then having a gap where suddenly it's, uh-oh, I thought I was still covered, but now I need a solution. Or worse, needing to be on Medicare and potentially paying a late enrollment penalty that follows you for the rest of your life. We talk about Medicare and planning for it all the time on this channel. And by the time you turn age 64, your mailbox is going to get absolutely flooded with all sorts of propaganda. It's going to be easy to ignore. It's going to be easy to miss the actual important, helpful information in the midst of all that noise. You've got to be planning ahead for Medicare years before you actually retire, or planning ahead to create a healthcare bridge from retirement all the way until you reach age 65 and can actually get on Medicare. This has got to be part of your plan. It's got to be built into what we call your 5-factor retirement plan. How do you do this? A few years before you retire, have an intentional conversation with your certified financial planner, likely while you're reviewing that 5-factor retirement plan together. That's typically when we do it. Have an intentional conversation about what your health insurance options are going to look like when you retire. If you're retiring and you'll be eligible for Medicare immediately, that discussion should include, all right, when are you having some Medicare-specific discussions? When are you signing up? How is all of that actually going to work? Maybe not every single detail at that point, but a dress rehearsal or run-through so nothing catches you off guard later. If, however, a few years before you retire, it's revealed that, yeah, you're actually going to have a gap between when you retire and when you're eligible for Medicare. Start talking through with your CFP what the options are going to be and what they're going to cost, and make sure that's built into your retirement plan from the start, not bolted on as an afterthought. Then as you get closer and closer to retirement, maybe within that final year, you need to start having more intentional, more detailed discussions, and bring in a health insurance expert who can collaborate with you, teach you the details, review your options, and help you make a wise choice. And your CFP needs to be collaborating with that health insurance expert too, to make sure that decision is connected with the rest of your retirement plan and your overall financial plan, not made in isolation. And then the fourth mistake, and this is a biggie, guys. The fourth mistake that people make in the last year of their working career, the one that ends up derailing or costing them a lot of money throughout their entire retirement, is missing the tax valley opportunity. The tax valley opportunity. This is where many people just think, well, the last year of my working career is just like all the others, right? I've been funding my 401k pre-tax. I've been doing this other thing, same as always. No. It's completely different. You could be eligible for different tax opportunities, whether that's deductions or credits, in the last year of your career that you will never ever be able to capture again. Why is that? Because some of the funding or the ability to make contributions to certain tax shelters is dependent upon whether you have earned income. And the last year before you retire is your last year of earned income, period. Therefore, maxing out that 401k, maxing out that Roth IRA, if you're eligible, maybe making an HSA contribution while you still can, you want to make sure that's coordinated with that health insurance decision and connected to mistake number 3. But these could be the last years you're ever able to fund some of those tax shelters at all. So you're going to want to actually do that intentionally with eyes open. But it goes deeper than that too. If your tax planning is connected to that retirement income mistake I mentioned, mistake number 2, then you might be able to set up a different retirement income strategy in the first year of your retirement, maybe the first year and a half. That could open up the ability to do Roth conversions or some capital gain harvesting or some other creative tax planning strategies. These can set you on a glide path so that you avoid significant taxes out there down the road. Maybe it reduces your future RMDs. Maybe it reduces your income-related monthly adjustment amount on Medicare premiums. So missing out on this tax planning, this tax valley opportunity that only exists for a short window right around your retirement date, that's the fourth mistake. And it's one of the most expensive ones to overlook because the window for capturing it closes and never reopens. The truth is, guys, it's very easy for any of us to take our eye off the ball the closer we get to the finish line, and that's certainly true when it comes to your finances in retirement. But doing so can mean thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands of dollars, in impact to your overall financial situation, and ultimately a real crisis of confidence when it comes to your retirement. I want you to avoid that. I don't want you celebrating too early and dropping the ball 5 yards from the goal line. I don't want you breaking your ankle a few steps before the finish line after decades of disciplined saving. You've worked too hard to get here to let an avoidable mistake in the final stretch undo what took you 30 or 40 years to build. Avoid these 4 mistakes and others by working with your CFP and looking at all 6 areas of your financial life together, not in isolated pieces. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online at korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with a K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well. Or give us a call at 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go and take your next wise step in your financial life.